Hey there everybody, and welcome back to WandaVision Talk, Spoiler Talk. That's right, Spoiler Talk. So if you haven't seen it and you don't want it spoiled, go on now, get out of here. We're talking about episode 8. It's bright and early over here in Fandom Wireland. That's why I got my mug, my little morning outfit, my robe on, and I just finished watching WandaVision episode 8. All I've got to say is, wow, that was a good episode. This was the first episode. It seemed like they gave us more answers than questions, which was a nice change of pace. So they've ditched the sitcom vibe. We didn't get another sitcom episode within Westview, which I think everybody kind of expected after the dramatic conclusion to last week's episode. We were kind of past that. Plus, they already went through most of the decades. They did a 2000s episode last week with the family or Modern Family kind of staring at the camera vibe. So now we're on to bigger and better things for the last 2 episodes. This one opens up in the past, following Agatha in Salem, where of course those famous Salem witch trials occurred, and she is there being almost crucified and attacked by her coven, her witch coven, for having violated some of their rules and laws. But those plans backfire because Agatha is a very powerful being, and she ends up absorbing the life force and power from the rest of her coven. Just kind of kills them all. After that, it jumps back up to where we left off on last week's episode. So we left off with Wanda finding out that Agatha is actually a witch, she is not Agnes, and that she has some pretty strong powers. Now, what Agatha wants is to learn how Wanda is so powerful, how she created the Hex and controlled all these people. So it is confirmed, at least as of now, everything changes, that it was Wanda who created the Hex. We kind of already knew that, we saw her expand the Hex to save Vision, but of course there were still theories going around that somebody else was actually doing it, pulling the strings. This episode really clears that up. It was Wanda. She did it. As Agatha is telling Wanda how she did all this and how she can, manipulate beings and do things like Wanda can do, she mentions, though, that she can't do it to the extent Wanda can. She couldn't create such a huge magical hex area. She couldn't control people from miles away. She mentions it's almost like magic on autopilot, and she wants to know how she did it because Agatha wants to be that powerful. And while she's giving her this little spiel, she mentions fake Pietro. So maybe Pietro isn't actually Pietro from the Fox X-Men movies. We still don't know, really, because there's still a whole nother episode and things keep changing back and forth. But she did say fake Pietro, meaning maybe it's not Pietro. So for this episode, Wanda is taken by Agatha into different moments in her past, really important emotional moments that show her powers kind of escalating and how she got to be the powerful witch that she is. And we take her all the way back to Russia. We see her and Pietro as children with their family in war-torn Russia, and they are watching classic sitcoms. And this is how Wanda relaxes. This is how she spends time with her family. This is her happy place, watching shows like Dick Van Dyke, Bewitched, I Love Lucy, Malcolm in the Middle. There's a big cassette box with all these tapes in there. And so that's when we learn this classic TV means a lot to Wanda because this is what she did with her family, with people she cares about who are gone now. So that is why she was in this classic TV sitcom little perfect world with Vision and her kids and her family, because that is her happy place. Now, while she's watching classic TV, while she's watching Dick Van Dyke, a bomb goes off. This is where her parents are killed. Her and Pietro survive, and they see a bomb land right in their living room. Stark Industries right across the front. Meaning, this, of course, is from Tony Stark. This takes place in the past, so this isn't happening now. This is before Tony Stark gave up his war missile ways and decided to be a good guy. But, of course, this means that even after his death in Endgame, Tony Stark is playing a pivotal role in storylines moving forward. He is kind of the face of the MCU. We see her right after Pietro's death. The real Pietro, or at least the real Pietro in the MCU, not the X-Men. It's a little confusing. But MCU Pietro, after his death, in Age of Ultron, when Vision is still a new being, freshly created, and he comes in and he's comforting, or trying to comfort Wanda after the death of her brother. And this is where we we see their bond really start to happen here. We see that she was able to move past that death, or at least get through that death, because she had somebody else to lean on. Just like when her parents died, she had Pietro to help her through. When Pietro died, she had Vision to help her through. And they were sitting there watching, of course, TV. They were watching Malcolm in the Middle. And so when Vision dies, she doesn't have anyone to help her through. And that's what we're learning. She is completely alone. She feels completely alone. She's lost everybody she cares about. Her parents, her brother, her love. And that is what kind of sends her to snap. But what specifically leads her to go to Westview and create this imaginary world? Well, director Hayward, he's kind of a dick, and it seems he is pushing all the right buttons because we know that he wants Vision back online. He's trying to use Vision as a weapon. That's what he refers to him as, a weapon. Now he said that Wanda took Vision's body, stole it from Sword headquarters, and took it to Westview. We learn in this episode, lies. That didn't happen. He did allow Wanda to come in and see that they were dismembering him, that they were taking him apart to try and learn about him and learn how to turn him into a functioning weapon. And he's pushing these buttons. He's mentioning reanimating him to try and get Wanda to do what she does. That's what it seems. So Director Hayward is really the one coaxing Wanda to go create the Hex. So she gets back in her car after Sword headquarters, and there's an envelope. What's this? She says, what? And she opens it. It's a deed to a property that she now owns, was given to her over in Westview. Again, this has to be from Sword. This has to be Director Hayward giving her little pieces, trying to make her go there so that she will do this. This is what he's hoping, because he knows he needs her powers in order to reanimate Vision. And then we see in a post-credit scene that is exactly what happens. Spoiler alert, there's a post-credit scene, and he uses the drone that they had sent into her, that she had attacked. It still has her powers kind of glowing and floating around it, and they're using that energy to reanimate Vision's body. But he is not the Vision that we knew from the MCU anymore. He appears to be colorless, mindless, memoryless, and he's going to be a weapon. He's going to go in and he's going to do some damage. He's going to fight Wanda, and it's going to be epic. Now, before the credits, before the post-credit scene, how it ends is we have Agatha. She's got the twins by magical necks, putting magic lassos around them, torturing them, and then she confronts Wanda and she says, I know who you are. You were supposed to be a myth, which means we know that Wanda is something that the witch community has known about or talked about for a long time, supposed to be a myth, and then she says it. You are the Scarlet Witch. There it is, it finally happened. That's why they haven't labeled her Scarlet Witch as like a superhero code name, because they were saving it for this. She's the Scarlet Witch, not a superhero code name, it's a witch thing. It's a witch thing. She's a witch and it's a witch thing. So there you have it, the Scarlet Witch is here. Next week's episode is the season finale. It's going to be huge, huge. Believe me with this, it's gonna be magnificent, and I can't wait to talk about it with you. So, cheers to WandaVision, and I'll see you on the season finale. Drink up.